for some, but for everyone. Lord, we don't need another mountain. There are mountains and hillsides enough to climb. There are oceans and rivers enough to cross, enough to last till the end of time. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone. Lord, we don't need another meadow. There are meadows and wheat fields enough to grow. There are sunbeams and moonbeams enough to shine. Oh, listen, Lord, if you want to know what the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, oh, but just for everyone. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. What the world needs now is love, sweet love.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Unity. We welcome our live streamers to Unity Center of Cedar Rapids. Please know that whoever you are or wherever you are from, you are welcome here. And we would like to start our service with having everybody join us in affirming our opening statement. So let's say together, there is only one presence and one power in my life and in the universe, God the good, omnipotent. Very good. Well, as you can see, Reverend Deborah is not here today because she is finally taking a well-deserved vacation to see her family. This is a long time in the making for her she has not been able to see her family since she came here. So this is very, very special. So we bless her on her journey and know that it will be filled with love and joy. And now we're going to have an opening song. So
Yes,
Nina?
yeah. This is one we actually sang last week as a congregational, and I liked it so much. So this is going to be our opening song for the month of September. There we go. Here we go. Come, oh, come to the table. Gather round, come without fear. Known by name here at the table, this table. Welcome here to the table of love. I forgot to ask you to stand. Please, if you'd like to stand and sing, it's always easier. Second verse. Circle round, let's join together. Share your
We're children of God here at the table, this table. Welcome here to the table of love. Let's take that with the welcome. Welcome here to the table of love.
All right. And we will not be singing We Are Walking in the Light because all of our children are apparently on vacation this weekend. So we will dive right into the announcements. I failed to announce or introduce myself. I'm Paula Land. I am platform person for this morning, and I'm a very grateful member of the Board of Trustees serving as your president this year. So we have some things coming up. Well, before we get to that, I would like to welcome anybody who's here as a guest for the first time or second time. And we do have welcome packets at the welcome table. And so if you have not received that yet, please make sure you stop by the welcome table and pick that up. That is our gift to you. And today we welcome Alan Diehl as our guest speaker. Alan is a, yay. Alan is a Cedar Rapids native. Currently, he serves as the president of the Interreligious Council of Lynn County and as the vice president of the Humanists of Lynn County. He holds a bachelor's in pastoral theology, a bachelor's degree in business and finance, and an MBA from Mount Mercy University. Thank you so much for being with us today, Alan. So, coming up, the first part of September is always our World Day of Prayer, and so this year it falls on September 7th. So we encourage you to join the World Day of Prayer event online. Makes it pretty easy. So this year's theme is Holding the High Watch. The affirmations help each of us apply it to our lives. I pray with an elevated mind and open heart. The opening ceremony is on Wednesday, September 7th at 7 p.m., and that's really a time to immerse yourself in prayer and music and contemplation. And then you may participate in the 2022 World Day of Prayer events on Zoom, which is the following day on Thursday, September 8th. Registration is free, and it requires only your email address. So I think there might be, nope, there's no web address, but basically go to unity.org, and you will see probably something right in the front page that says Unity World Day of Prayer. So Jan Griffiths, Community Creates session has moved to Saturday, September 19th from 9 to noon. And so take that opportunity to come and let divine creativity express through you. So you have heard a couple of times about our events that are coming up. We have 2 fun events this fall. One is going to be a fall homecoming and concert. That was those top 2 choices when we asked you, what would you like to do for a fun event? So we've combined the fall homecoming and the concert, and also a game night. However, to pull something like that off needs people with creativity, with a planning mindset, organizational skills, or just a willingness to just jump in and help. So there are signups on the welcome table, and we would really love to have your participation in helping make those events fun for all of us. And if you are considering membership, there are they still yellow cards? Yellow cards on the table to sign up, indicate your interest, and also those classes are also available for anybody who would like to just get a refresher on some basic Unity principles. And so the date has been set. It's in November. I can't remember exactly. I think it's the 13th and 14th. but don't quote me on that. So that would be the date, but don't let that, your inability to attend that, interfere with you signing up if you have an interest, because that will help us to know in the future who we would reach out to for our next Exploring Unity event. Okay, and today we have Vern and Audrey Eggleston as our platform persons. So Vern and Audrey are able to pray with you after the service at the prayer room. Okay. And now, join me in saying the statement of purpose. Unity is a positive path for spiritual living. We gather to create an experience of spirit. At Unity CR, we offer practical teachings that empower abundant and meaningful living. Meeting you right where you are, we endeavor to provide a variety of ways to support your path of spiritual living. And our mission is to provide spiritual awareness and share the wonder and joy of God's love. And before we get into the daily word, I just want to say thank you to the tech team once again for the wonderful new addition of a screen at the back of the sanctuary, which has, yay, as a platform, I'm still used to looking this way, but no, I have a perfect view of and know when the slides have changed. So thank you, it's wonderful. So our daily word today is ease. Beholding God in every circumstance helps me know ease. Can we get the reverb? It's kind of echoey. It is easy for me to find God in the glory of a sunrise and in the laughter of children, and to feel God's love as I get together with friends and family. Wherever there is wonder, joy, or fellowship, God is surely present. I remember that God is just as surely present when my responsibilities feel overwhelming, when conflict arises in a relationship, or when it feels as though there isn't enough of what I need. If I begin to feel tense, fearful, or frustrated, I remember that wisdom, love, understanding, and strength, all of the divine qualities that live within me, are ready to help me handle any challenge. Assured by my awareness of God's presence, I move with ease and grace through whatever this day brings. From Proverbs 1:33, those who listen to me will be secure and will live at ease without dread of disaster.
All right, let's all stand and sing A Light in This World. It's funny. I've got my readers on, so I can't read that anyway. So I need one right here. I am a light, I am a light, I am a light in this world. I am a light, I am a light, I am a light in this world. And I shine, and I shine, and breathing out love, breathing in peace, breathing out love, breathing the breath of God, breathing in joy, breathing out wisdom, breathing in joy, breathing out wisdom, breathing the breath of God. Breathe joy, breathe wisdom, breathe peace, breathe love, breathing the breath of God.
Breathing in peace, breathing in love. So we take this time to center ourselves, to go within, to tap into our heart space. As we do so, we take time to listen with our heart, and to open our minds and free our minds of all the constraining thoughts and ideas that keep us stuck. We release all ideas of limitation and lack, for we know that truly we are limitless. We let go of the need to be perfect, because truly the truth of us is that we are divinely perfect. We let go of the need to control. We allow that ease and grace to flow freely in our lives, because we have allowed Spirit to move through us. We let go of the need to be right. When we do that, we open ourselves up to new ideas. We listen with new ears. And we connect heart to heart. We feel connected with Divine Mind. And in that connection, we feel that sense of oneness. You bring your energy and your light and your love into this space. And in doing so, you allow that to connect with others. And you see that light and love and energy as a beam of light emanating from your being. You see it ever expanding. And your light bumps into and connects to the light of those around you, creating a new level of energy and of awareness and of oneness in this place. We are open to receiving. We are open to loving. And it is with that open heart that we give such great gratitude. Gratitude for all of our powers, divine faculties. We know that we do not need to search for them. We do not need to resist them. We simply allow. We allow that love, that wisdom, that life, that zeal, that power, and so many more. And as we breathe again, that sense of gratitude, we remember our oneness with the divine and with one another, and we are so, so grateful. And we take this feeling this morning and we share it freely throughout our day, throughout our week, at every opportunity. As we find ourselves seeking that sense of control, we remember to let it go and let Spirit flow. So for this opportunity, and for this knowing, and for this truth, we are so grateful. Amen.
This is the theme from the movie Interstellar. You may remember that movie. It's one of my favorites. So you need to imagine yourself out in space.
Fabulous, Nina. Wow. And now join me in welcoming Alan Diehl.
Good morning. How's everyone? It's excellent to be back here at Unity Church. I was asking, or Paul and I were talking earlier about when is the last time I was here, and you could have said 2015, 16, 17, 18. I don't know. It all feels like an ancient world, right? Pre-COVID. But I think we decided it was 2018 when I was here last and had, I think, a series of talks that I really, really enjoyed. And so when Deborah asked me to come back and speak while she was out of town, I certainly jumped at the opportunity. So really anxious to engage with you this morning and hopefully share a few things that you'll find helpful. But before I do that, I always like to ask people, what are you reading? I'm always fascinated by what people are reading. So I said, you know what, I'm going to do the same thing for you this morning. How many in here like to read? All right, very good, very good. I don't know about you, but I'm the kind of guy who has about 15 books laying around, all about 25% completed. On to the next, next book. So what I did is I just grabbed kind of the top 3 and said, all right, this is a decent sampling of what I'm currently reading. So one of the books, Adam Grant, some of you are familiar with this one. Think again, The Power of Knowing What You Don't Know. This one I'll reference a little bit in our talk this morning. This one here, actually, I just finished. Very, very excellent. Called All the Ways Our Dead Still Speak. And this is written by a man named Caleb Wilde, and he is a 6th-generation funeral director with 170 years back to the early 19th century there in eastern Pennsylvania. So he kind of creates a meta-narrative here about his experience growing up and dealing with literally thousands of funerals and what it's taught him about connecting with his ancestors and having them kind of live through him in a lot of different ways. So I found it very, very inspiring. Finally, a book by Marcus Aurelius, not quite contemporary like Caleb. He was a 2nd century Roman emperor, and some of you and most of you probably are familiar with him, but he has not really a book. It was basically it's called Meditations, but those that are familiar, right? It was basically just his musings, scholars say, to himself that he wrote, and I don't think expected anybody to read it, but gosh, how relevant to today when I read this, and very, very inspiring. So those are my 3 books that I'm currently reading in conjunction with about 20 others. All right. So as you saw, I am the current president of the Interreligious Council, vice president of Humanisland County. So we do a lot of good things there, but I'm going to save that to the end. I do want to jump into our talk this morning. And so today we're going to talk about know your neighbor, or knowing your neighbor. A few years ago, back in 2018, actually about the time I spoke here last, the Interreligious Council hosted a series of events downtown at the library, very, very well attended, in which we kind of talked about a lot of, you could say, contentious issues at the time. And it really kind of inspired us to think in terms of knowing your neighbor, understanding your neighbor. And I think all of us could agree in kind of the day in which we live, whether it be social media or politics or anywhere else you'd seem to go, there is that kind of divisiveness that pervades our society and tries to kind of latch on to us anytime it can. And I think there's no greater time than right now to think about knowing your neighbor, understanding your neighbor, connecting with your neighbor. And especially as we've come out of COVID here, or coming out of COVID, I should say, where we are, I think, reorienting ourselves to the world and how we connect with it. And whether it be with our immediate neighbors, in our neighborhood, if you will, or going back out there and connecting through our churches and our local community a variety of different ways. Certainly, our churches, our places of worship, have taken the brunt of COVID and all that's done to kind of disrupt community. And it's very exciting to be back with people, being able to connect with people. I think there's no replacement for it. So know your neighbor. But before we get into that, I do have, let's see if this works. It's supposed to work. Is there an on-off button? Let's try on. Oh, there we go. I'll get into it. Okay, but first a quick story. So those that weren't here 4 years ago, and even if you were, I don't expect you to remember it, a little bit about me. So I had come out I was raised in the born-again Christian movement, so the independent fundamental Baptist movement, that's what I was raised in the nursery all the way up, and that was something that I carried with me. I was I went to a Christian school. I was in church pretty much 7 days a week, and if you know anything about the independent fundamental Baptist movement, generally it's a pretty isolated community in the sense that you're kind of isolated ideologically, isolated physically a lot of times. You know, I never went into a public school, I think, for the exception of driver's ed when I was 16 years old. But there was this content isolation, and I think the idea of a castle on a hill is a perfect illustration of it. And don't get me wrong, I loved my childhood. I felt very fortunate to be part of a community that had the truth, right? That was not going to hell when you die and was going to go to heaven forever, right? And, really the debate was not, are we going to heaven or not? It was, who is going to sit at the marriage supper of the Lamb, right? Who is God going to give preferential treatment within our own community? I was talking to somebody about that the other day. But in a lot of ways, we were in an island, right? Or we were, in this case, in a castle. We were isolated from ideas. And I remember as I came out of that, I was a full-time minister in Nebraska. And I began to explore different ideas and talk to different people and hear their experiences, whether that be somebody that had a Catholic upbringing and felt inspired by that, or had a different religious upbringing but still brought them inspiration. This was a little unsettling for me. And the drawbridge, if you will, began to be lowered. And I peeked around the corner and thought, should I go out there? And it was scary, the thought of it, right? And so I went from content isolation to what I would call the confusion of the crowds. And that's me out there, right? And it was very unsettling. I remember thinking, well, now, I mean, what's right? What's wrong? Who's right? Who's wrong? How am I supposed to figure this out? I mean, it was so clear. It was so, there was just no ambiguity. But now all of a sudden, you're just out here with all these people, with all these different ideas and backgrounds, and it's okay to do this, it's not okay to do that, but that's not how I was raised. On and on and on. And somebody asked me the other day, they said, what are you looking for? I mean, you're out here. You must be searching for something. It's like, that's got to be so stressful. And I said, no, it's not stressful at all. I said, I'm not looking for anything, right? I'm exploring. It's the person that goes out there and he looks for what's around the next mountain, or what's in the next valley, or what's in the next bookstore, if you will. What's the next read? What's the new idea that I'm going to be exposed to that's going to change me in some fundamental way? It's an exploration. It's the journey. It's becoming a new, more interesting person, and hopefully becoming more valuable to the world. So I'm not looking for anything, right? There's no one day I'm going to pick up the book and say, yeah, Marcus Aurelius, he was the guy that knew everything. I'm going to follow him for the rest of my... Well, no, that's just, not for me. But it's like a buffet, right? I can go and I can take something from it, learn from it, and apply it to my life and hopefully enrich my human experience and hopefully make people around me better. So that's just that quick story. So that's a little bit about me. So who is your neighbor? Who are we talking about this morning? We, of course, certainly could apply all kinds of different definitions to that. But I simply said people with whom you can share your life with. Now, that could be in person. It could be virtually. We have people streaming in here. We're able to share our lives with them in some way. If Mark Zuckerberg gets his way, we'll be knowing neighbors in the metaverse, in the virtual reality world that maybe one day our children and grandchildren will live in. Who knows, right? But people with whom you share your life with, that's your neighbor. And I think we're thinking about reconnecting with those neighbors and defining those neighbors constantly in different ways, aren't we? I think one of the things like COVID has taught me is learning to appreciate those people that are near me, whether it be my family, whether it be the people in my own neighborhood, really getting out there and connecting with them in real, tangible ways. But you could define your neighbor in all kinds of ways, and like I say, it'll continue to change. The question is, but why? I'm content. Why do I need to know, as I mentioned earlier, become exposed to a different person with a different idea, a different background, a different upbringing, a different perspective on the world, maybe a different religion, maybe a different sexual orientation, maybe a different race? Why should I? I'm content kind of in my, as we looked at that little castle of contentment, if you will. And a lot of people do think that way. I think that way from time to time, right? I just love kind of creating my world, being choosy about who gets to enter it, making sure they're not too disruptive, and finding that contentment that we oftentimes crave. It's a very human need, isn't it? To be content, to feel as if we're right, to feel as if we're on the right track in life. So that's a good question. Why would I want to do that? And to be honest with you, most of us don't to any significant degree. A lot of us talk the talk, but when you ask, okay, yeah, but when's the last time you've read a book that you don't agree with, right? When's the last time you've hung out with a person that really is not the kind of person that you would typically hang out with? It's a good question to ask. It's a sobering question, right? So 3 things I'm going to point out here real quick, and I think probably about 5 till is when I want to be done. But the first thing is, you're not as smart. So why do I want to know my neighbor, right? Why do I want to get out there and kind of disrupt my life in a sense, right? My psychological well-being in some instances. Well, number one, you're not as smart and interesting as you might think. I think we all, again, like to think that, we're the bee's knees, right? Gosh, if people could just understand me and my orientation to the world, boy, the world would be such a better place, right? And that causes us to kind of double down on this ego that we have. But there's something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. I don't know if anybody have ever heard that. And that gets back a little bit to this book that I'm reading, Think Again by Adam Grant, right? And it basically says this: when we lack competence, we are most likely to be brimming with overconfidence. So there's 2 syndromes that he outlines. It's called the armchair quarterback syndrome. That's the person that doesn't have much competence, but has a ton of confidence, right? So when you're watching the Hawkeye game yesterday, you were probably yelling at Petrus, right? Throw the ball, right? And you're thinking to yourself, if I was out there, I could have done it, right? I mean, come on, the guy was wide open. Armchair quarterback. If you were actually out there, probably not, right? But your competence certainly was outpaced by your confidence. Then there's what's called the imposter syndrome, and some of you have heard that, where your competence, right, exceeds your confidence. And so in many cases, the imposter, you feel like an imposter, right? I mean, you're highly qualified, you've got tons of experience, you seem to have an excellent skill set, but yet you're still plagued with self-doubt, the lack of confidence. So we kind of sometimes waffle between these two kind of orientations to the world. And so it's important for us, I think, when we're out meeting people and when we're out engaging with the world, that we have this kind of sense of humility, but yet good self-awareness that I do have a lot to offer people, right? I have my own experiences. Don't invalidate that, right? That's an important part of knowing your neighbor, is you have a lot to offer them that can change them, that can enrich them, can make their life better. I mean, the secret is we're all lonely, right? We're all craving companionship. We're all craving friendship. We're all craving validation. We're all craving connection in some way. Even the most confident, just charismatic individual you'd ever meet, I guarantee you, suffers from self-doubt and loneliness and all of these things that are common to the human experience. So you need to go out there realizing you have something to offer, but yet also coupled with, I have a lot that I know I need in my life. I have a lot that I can learn from other people. And I could very well be wrong. I could be very well deficient in a particular area, that if I get to know this person, understand their perspective, be exposed to a different idea, boy, it might make me a more well-rounded and valuable human being. All right. So, yeah, this kind of goes into it. Some of you may have noticed this effect, right? This idea of the willingness to opine on a topic, right? So it goes, it kind of goes up here. Knowledge of the topic is pretty little, but boy, they just love to go on and on about it, right? You've met those kind of people. A little knowledge is dangerous, right? I read that book, so now I'm going to tell everybody. Oops, I think that's what I'm doing. No, so maybe I would like to think I'm maybe somewhere around here, right? Coming down the other side of Mount Stoop. But this is kind of where, then you kind of get to this point in your life where you realize, oh, you know what? I do know a fair amount about this, but I realize how much I don't know, right? So you kind of shut up and you keep learning. Then you do become maybe a true expert and willing to share your ideas with other people. All right. You got that. So human connection is fundamental to our happiness. Anybody know who this guy is here? Anybody? Okay. I think it probably skews to a younger generation to some degree. But this guy, his name is Chris McCandless, and he also known as his street name Alexander Supertramp. And so this was a book written about 30 years ago called Into the Wild. And it's the story of Chris McCandless after graduating from Emory University, and you've probably seen the movie, excellent movie, one of my favorite movies and favorite books of all time. But there's been kind of a cult following, right, that has sprung up for Chris and what he did and what he wrote and what he experienced. And they call it the Magic Bus, which has been removed in Alaska but has been replaced with another bus. And this is where Chris went in 1991, and he, over a couple years, just explored this idea of being out there and away from civilization and finding yourself and finding happiness, kind of being alone. And but he wrote something here right before he died. One of his last things, spoiler alert, he did die at the end of his journey, at the age of, I believe, 22 years old. They're on the bus, and one of the last things he wrote, he says, and he carved it into some wood, and he says, "And so it turned out that only a life similar to the life of those around us, merging with it without a ripple, is genuine life, and that an unshared happiness is not happiness. And this was most vexing of all. Happiness is only real when shared." And so he craved this idea of being able to find yourself alone in the wilderness, connecting with nature, not dependent on all these other people out there that are just going to make your life miserable. But you know what? He kind of came, in fact, he tried to come back, right? And you've seen the movie, right? He tried to cross the river, maybe go back, connect with his family and those people. And after he had this realization, but that wasn't meant to be. But ironically, in his life, he inspired millions of people in a lot of ways, even though he had the short, brief life. But yeah, that's probably one of the more, there's a lot of things inspiring about his life, but that to me was one of the most, is just this realization that happiness only real when shared. So there's something very fundamental, right, about human connection, the need to be able to connect in a very genuine, real way with others. And this is an example of that, right? Where we're able to get out, we're able to share our fears, we're able to share our accomplishments, we're able to share just our experiences of life with people and be able to have them feel you and you feel them. And we need to promote that whenever possible. And we need to be able to give people opportunities to do that. And certainly Chris was not the first person to have this realization, right? But I thought it's a very unique contemporary example of that. And then finally, the third, and certainly this isn't a comprehensive list, of what reasons to know your neighbor, reasons to get out there and connect with people that are different from you. Stereotypes can be dangerous while also useful, while also convenient, and sometimes accurate. And so it's important to acknowledge the fact that we do have stereotypes in our brain, right, of people, whether it be whatever demographic you can think of, right? If I ask you, okay, tell me that kind of person. Oh, well, yeah, they're this way, that way, this way, that way. Well, there's probably some accuracy to it, right? Maybe broadly speaking. But of course, the real danger there is that we gravitate to that, right? And we constantly reinforce this and orient our behavior and kind of adjust our behavior and adjust the stories we tell about those people. And this becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, doesn't it, in many ways? So we need to recognize that stereotypes are there for a reason, yes, but we need to learn to break those stereotypes. And we need to learn to understand that humans are complex. They are oftentimes just a bunch of contradictions, right? There's things you probably see about your life. It's like, well, I behave this way in this environment, and I behave this way in that environment, and I think about things differently when I'm around that person versus that person. The human psyche is a bizarre thing, and we're just beginning to understand why we are the way that we are. And so we need to be able to give people that leeway to explore themselves, to understand that they're dynamic, that they're constantly changing, that they're going to be continuing to change throughout their life, and you need to be part of that journey, but part of that understanding, part of that humanizing of the individual. And it's much easier said than done, that's for sure. I mean, just think of a person, whether it be a political affiliation or religious affiliation or anything, right, that when you think of that type of person, it kind of irritates you, right, or it kind of offends you, and you think to yourself, gosh, I would never want to associate with a person that would say this thing or do that thing or behave in that way. Don't underestimate the power of your influence. And don't underestimate the power of understanding the individual. So, what's the solution? How do we break out of this? How do we get to know our neighbor for the three reasons that we talked about? How do we do it? It's tough, isn't it? It's very difficult. Life just kind of pushes you towards that path of least resistance, doesn't it? It pushes you to finding comfort. Well, first of all, again, not comprehensive. 5 things. Develop great thinking skills. There's a book I'm reading currently called The Scout Mindset by Julian Groff. It's a very excellent book of helping you become aware of the way you think and why you think and the flaws in your thinking, which all of us have, right, if you're human. Hold yourself to the same standards as others. That's difficult to do, isn't it? Gosh, we despise characteristics of others that we accept in our own self many times. It's a weird thing, isn't it? And so hold yourself to the same standards as others. If you don't like it when other people slander other people for the way they are, or stereotype them, or criticize them, or use foul language toward them, should you do the same thing? Something to think about. Give people the benefit of the doubt. That's a very difficult thing to do, isn't it? We think even our neighbors around us, why are they behaving in the way they do? Oh, it's because of this reason. We tell ourselves a little story. We tell ourselves a story of why that is, and that story justifies our behavior many times. Oh, of course I'm right for acting this way because that person did this. Have you talked to them about it? No, but it's obvious. Okay. Well, give them the benefit of the doubt. Admit that you could be wrong. It is possible. You could be wrong. I could be wrong. It's hard to, isn't it a hard thing, though, to think, I might believe things that are just false, like are just wrong? I mean, you know, most of us like, oh yeah, that's probably true, but when you try to think of it, you're like, well, I can't think of any. I'm sure there's some, but I can't think. I'll get back to you on that. But of course, when we look at others, well, they're wrong just about nearly everything. That seems bizarre. It seems like it wouldn't be that way, would it? Like, how is that possible? You can't both be right. So what do I always try to tell myself? I'm like, I'm probably wrong about most things. I mean, that's just the reality, right? A lot of things I'm probably wrong about. Things that in 100 years from now we consider okay today, moral, ethically all right, if you will. 100 years from now, people may look back and say, that was barbaric. What kind of, people were you? And then finally, open yourself, as we've talked about, to a variety of people and ideas. And this just talks about doing it, right? Which means just going out and exposing yourself to these ideas. So I talked about walking or having a good talk, but let's see if this is going to work here. There we go. So what am I actually doing, or what are we doing at the Interreligious Council of Linn County? So the Interreligious Council has been around 25 years ago. As I mentioned, the president currently have been for about a year or so. There's a lot of different things that we're doing to help people. I mentioned the event that we did a few years ago now. But we're really trying, and we have what we call the ethical perspectives on the news on Sunday mornings. And it's on throughout the week, and I help host and produce that and have for about 6 years or so. And that's a great opportunity for us to, and I always try to, when I put a show together, an episode together, I try to get different ideas, different people, different backgrounds, people that may disagree with each other, right, on very controversial topics. Because I love to explore that. Again, recognizing the idea that we may not all be, we might all be wrong, and we're just trying to think through it and try to come to the best solution. So that's something the Interreligious Council, the Ethical Perspectives on the News, we've sponsored and helped produce now for since 1999. So that's a real tangible way in which we get people together to talk on TV about difficult things and help hopefully enrich people and give them a perspective. But one of the other things we're focused on here now in my tenure as the president and with our vice president, Joseph Miller, who's the president of the LDS, the Latter-day Saints churches in eastern Iowa, and he's very passionate about this as well, is building out and creating opportunities for interfaith experiences. And we've already done a couple events through the Cedar Rapids Zen Center and then also through the LDS Church on East Post Road. I hosted an event there last year. It was very enlightening and wonderful. But what we're really trying to do is double down, simplify this, but make it more effective. And that's really creating a calendar of events through the Interreligious Calendar Council that shows people the already scheduled events of our faith community here in Cedar Rapids, which is robust, right? Which is very diverse. And we're really trying to give people a portal, if you will, to be able to plug themselves into these different events, to be able to experience a variety of different faiths in a very easy way. And I think a lot of times it's just because we don't know about it, right? And so that's one of the things we're really trying to build out is having these, in myself, like attending these events, and people from the Interreligious Council attending these events, talking about these events. How did they impact their life? What did you think about it going in versus what you actually experienced? What was kind of the delta between that? So that, amongst many other things, we have our Thanksgiving service that's coming up this fall that we're going to be hosting at the First Lutheran Church, Pastor Steve Knudsen down on 3rd, and my friend Leoma Williams from the AME Church is probably going to be speaking at that. So we're going to have a great interfaith event there in which we're going to be able to support a local charity and do some great work. So I'm myself, being a seventh generation Cedar Rapidian, I have a real desire to enrich Cedar Rapids, make it better in all kinds of different ways. And so I hope you enjoyed my talk this morning. I hope it's inspired you to get out of your comfort zone. We hear that a lot. But think about reasons why that might be helpful to make you a better person. Thank you very much.
That was very inspiring. Thank you. This is a song written by Daniel Nahmad. We do a lot of his songs here at church, but we've never done this one, and I think it applies really well to the talk this morning. So I'm excited about doing it. If I could find my reading glasses now, we'd be in good shape. Oh, there they are. Thank you.
everywhere and every day. One power indescribable, and you speak of it with every word you say. Mysterious until you know the truth, as simple as the love inside of you. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, angels' wings or heaven's door. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? It's the power of the love in you and me. One power, one power. We speak so many languages, different clothing, different colors, different names. But different is only dangerous when we forget that in our heart we're all the same. We'll remember when we close our eyes to see that such differences were never meant to be. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, Call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, Hashem, or heaven's door. It's Mohammed, it's your mind, it's your soul, or it's your sign. It's the universe, it's music, Mother Earth or Father Time. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? Whatever name you give it, it's the very air we breathe. It's the power of the love in you and me, one power. One power, one power, one power. It's the moment of creation, it's the everlasting peace, it's the freedom of forgiveness, it's the sweetness of release. It's the joy of inspiration. It's the sunshine on your face. It's the birthright of all nations. It's the boundlessness of space. It's the beauty of a baby, the serenity of sleep. It's the anger we abandon for its love that's most deep. It's one power. What we are is one power. Oh, it's the power of the love that lives forever in you and me. It's the power of the love in you.
So grateful for you, Nina.
Thank you. Me too.
Now comes the time for us to bless our tithes and offerings. And we know that there are many ways that we give, whether it be online, through auto tithe, through our checks, cash, and we bless it all. So together, let's say, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I give, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am grateful. All right. Sing, I am so blessed.
I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful for all that I am. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed. Gratitude before me, gratitude behind me, gratitude to the left of me, gratitude to the right of me, gratitude above me, gratitude below me, gratitude within me, gratitude all around me. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful for all that I am. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed.
As you notice, we have two people who come up each Sunday, and one person is holding a basket of prayer requests, and the other is our basket of offerings. And so we know that these purple prayer requests allow us to take this opportunity to know the divine within each and every individual. And we send our thoughts and our prayers and our love to those individuals, knowing that we see them lifted up. We see them walking through their journey with ease and grace. And of those, the gifts, we say thank you for giving so freely, for giving in a way that allows us to sustain this ministry and to keep the lights on and keep the minister paid and all the good stuff that comes along with that, knowing that we have this spiritual community that will continue to thrive for years to come. And then we know that these gifts do not stop here. They continue to go out into the world, blessing others. And for this, we are grateful. Thank you. And now we will sing the peace song and end with the prayer for protection.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect unity. Let peace begin with me. Let this be our moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my joyful vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
The light of God surrounds us.
I am the light of God.
The love of God enfolds us.
I am the love of God.
The power of God protects us.
I am the power of God.
The presence of God watches over us.
I am the presence of God.
Wherever I am, God is, and all is well.
Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, angels' wings, or heaven's door. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? It's the power of the love in you and me. One power, one power, one power, one power, one power, one power. It's the moment of creation, it's an everlasting peace. It's the freedom of forgiveness, it's the sweetness of release. It's the sweet joy of inspiration. It's the sunshine on your face. It's the birthright of all nations.